It is another happy Saturday, another happy chilly football weather Saturday. I am sports mental health empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. Ronnie, I got a new nickname for you. This is the king of House Talk Pregame and my co-host extraordinaire, Ronnie Ransome Jr. But I just decided that this morning. I was like, you know what? He the king of HD Pregame. That's what I'll tell him. Look, everybody, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It is so good to see you. So good to see you. Hey, Ronnie Ron.
Morning, Dr. Pitts. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long week, though. Goodness gracious, it's been a long week,
It
but I'm
has.
all right.
I feel you on that, and I
Yeah.
actually had to practice what I preached this week.
Okay.
I had to force some self care on myself this week, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we're definitely gonna talk about that later in the show about self care and
Hmm.
things like that. But look, y'all, you know why we're here. There are many student and professional athletes who have struggled with mental health illnesses and who are currently struggling with those very same illnesses to this day. Mental illnesses are a complex problem that can hinder our athletes' well-being on and off the field. So improving our physical, spiritual, environmental and relational health are equally important in having a great mental health.
Ronnie, that's an undisputable fact. I don't care what nobody says. It is 100% true. And that's why it's so important for parents, family members, coaches, and teammates, and really everybody invested in the athletic trajectory of the student and professional athlete to understand both the mental health risks and benefits to ensure athletes have the greatest opportunity for success and that they actually can find some enjoyment in participating in sports.
Exactly. And sports supposed to be fun at the end of the day. And that's what
Yeah.
it's all about here at Pregame, y'all. Look, we love to educate, empower, support, and positively influence the holistic performance of today's student athletes and professional athletes, their family members, and those invested in their athletic, professional, and personal journeys.
So, what we want you to know, folks, is that if you struggle to understand mental illness, and if you have compassion for those affected by it, or even if that's you, then you've come to the right place because every single solitary week here on Pregame, we share powerful. And every week I give the disclaimer: it's raw. Ronnie and I do not believe in sugarcoating because life doesn't sugarcoat. So we give it to you
At
raw,
all.
where Steve Harvey would say, straight no chaser, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's life, sports, and mental health information that we believe that you can benefit from to make well-informed athletic and, more importantly, life transforming decisions. We also want you to remember, as a side note, to catch us on Heritage Sports Radio Network, call sign HSRN, every Saturday at this same time. You can catch one of our pre-recorded shows in case you missed it in weeks past, and at 10 p.m., as well as on Sundays at 6 p.m. Look, folks, we are really honored and just truly, truly, truly count it a blessing to be a part of HSRN, because HSRN is all about empowering the HBCU families, head, heart, and hands to deliver the impact that we all know that it can. So do not forget to catch our lineup of great shows. We have some amazing, amazing colleagues covering some extraordinary, extraordinary topics that are relevant and relative to Black and Brown communities all across the nation and truly all over the world. So don't forget to catch the lineups on HSRN, folks.
Absolutely. And each week, y'all, we've been having some really great conversations, and we want you to be a part of the conversation while it's happening. So if you want to be a part of our virtual audience and actually chime in or share your opinion, or just talk about your testimony, please go see our Zoom link that's available on all our social media platforms. Sign up and log in and definitely be a part of our show. We would love to have you. Or if you are a current or former student athlete, parent of a current or former student athlete, and you want to ask a question, shout somebody out, shout an athlete out, shout your parents out, whatever the case may be, or just share your testimonies with your mental health challenges or your triumphs, as well as being a student athlete, please email us at htpregame@gmail.com, because we want to hear from you as well. Look, y'all, we got a very, very powerful show lineup for you all today, and I think a very important topic, and one that I think we all, even as non-student athletes, I think we all struggle with this in some way, shape, or form. But and for a student athlete, I think this is something that we all really battle with, especially post after our career, is regret. And it can arguably be one of the worst emotions you feel in sport. And research shows that many college athletes regret specializing in sports so young, believe they played in too many games as kids, and have unrealistic professional expectations. When student athletes take responsibility for the athletic journey and do everything they can to realize their dream, at least they won't have to have any regrets, even if it doesn't work out. So we're going to be talking about, so we talk about all the time, like, as student athletes, you put all your eggs in one basket of being a football player, basketball player, softball, baseball, whatever the case may be. So what if you put all your eggs in that basket and it doesn't work out? Or what if you make it to that point and you fumble the bag, you fumble the ball, you squander that opportunity? So what happens? Or what if you feel like injury robs you of your career, something like that? So we're going to talk about how regret, what it looks like, how it feels. I will also be sharing some of my own personal testimonies with regret and some of the reflections I've done as an adult post-athletic career and how it's helped me, and hopefully it can help some of our listeners out there today. So we're going to be talking about regret. We're also going to be sharing our mental health tips of the week this week as well. And also we have some, playoff news in the HBCU world. We have some teams playing in D2 playoffs today, so we're going to be sharing that as well. So Dr. Pitts, do you want to go first with our mental health tip of the week, or do you want me to go first?
I went first last week and the week before. You go first.
Cool. So I got a relatively quick one this week. So I want to share with everybody, here are 5 affirmations you can practice with yourself on trying to heal. So this first affirmation can help if you're experiencing any abandonment issues or any unaddressed childhood trauma. And these affirmations, you can say these in your head or you can say them aloud. I'll always encourage people to try and say them aloud, specifically in front of a mirror, specifically looking at yourself. And I always encourage that because at the end of the day, affirmations are for you. Affirmations, you are talking to you. And the most powerful and one of the most effective ways to practice those affirmations is by literally looking at yourself in the mirror and saying them to yourself. Watching you affirm yourself is one of the most powerful and effective ways to help with any issues you might be dealing with. This first affirmation is, my inner child is loved, validated, and safe at all times with me. Once again, you can practice that in your head or say it aloud. That affirmation is to help deal with abandonment issues or any unaddressed childhood traumas. This next one, I embrace success. The words I can't are not in my vocabulary. I'm the only person who can stop me. This affirmation can help with those who might be struggling with some self-sabotaging, self-defeating thoughts or behaviors, insecurities, self-esteem, confidence. This affirmation is very, very powerful for that, to boost yourself up and to give yourself that reassurance that yes, you can get through this and you can accomplish it. You deserve that promotion. You deserve that job. You deserve that starting spot. You did the work and you deserved it. So embrace your success. I release my need to impress others. I have nothing to prove. I accept myself the way I am. This also is a very powerful affirmation if you're also looking to battle with seeking external validation. And oftentimes seeking external validation is something that we all deal with, and we all in some way, shape, or form yearn in some way. And that's fine. It's always fine to get outside validation, to know that, you know what, it's one thing for me to tell myself, I am doing a good job, but we're human. We want to hear that from other people too. We want to hear that we're doing a good job, because what we also know is if you only listen to yourself and you only believe yourself always, hey, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So there's always good to have external validation, but I always, 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 always encourage you to validate yourself first. Because if you expect external validation to complete you, you will never know when enough is enough. So next one. I am handsome or beautiful. I accept myself unconditionally. This is a very good affirmation for those who might be suffering from self-image issues, self-esteem, self-confidence, body image issues, anything like that. Understand, look, I understand that in this world of social media, technology, peer pressure, peer influence has never been greater or magnified the way it is now. But understand this, and this may sound cliche, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I always tell people, just as much as self-love for your inside is important, self-love for how you look on the outside is just as equally important for you. Like, and I will also say this for my men out here as well, because traditionally men are not known to really go out here and do cosmetic surgery and things like that, even though it is on the rise. I will say that men are doing it more and more now. But however, for my men out there who struggle with self-esteem issues and things like that, understand this, that you have to love yourself first. You have to be comfortable with yourself in order to accept somebody else's love. And so, don't beat yourself up. And on women out there too, don't beat yourself up. Love yourself. Love your imperfections. Love your qualities, because nobody's perfect. Nobody has the perfect body, the perfect smile, the perfect nose, ears, hands, whatever it is people think is perfection. It doesn't exist. Perfection is what you love about yourself. And that is what makes you perfect. And this last one is, I love myself. And this has helped people who are struggling with self-worth and also with self-validation. Love yourself, because you cannot receive love from anybody else until you learn to love yourself and what that looks like. So that is my mental health tip of the week. Dr. Pitts, you may grace the floor.
Thank you, Ronnie. And those are great tips. Thank you for sharing. So I actually have a 2-part mental health tip of the week.
Okay.
And both are tied to regret. So I wanted to say first that I recognize from how cold my phone was that all the Falcon fans that talk mad trash to me regret talking mad trash to me. And I'm just gonna say, I didn't respond. Ronnie, I don't talk trash. I didn't call nobody. I didn't say nothing about nothing. I didn't send no memes, no emojis, or nothing. But I am guessing that because I have not heard from them, that there is some regret about all that trash that they had talked to me, because they just knew everybody was on that. The Broncos got the formula of how to shut the Cowboys down, so the Falcons is gonna do the darn thing. So my first tip is, if y'all stop talking trash, you wouldn't have to have no regrets, because it's football. And we never know. Who knew that the Eagles were going to beat the Broncos? Who knew that? Who knew that? Did nobody know that? Wasn't nobody expecting that? So stop talking trash, and you don't have to have no regrets if the surprise happens and your team get the brakes, the tires, the hubcaps.
I like how
all the other stuff beat off of you.
I like how you tried this. You really, it was the Falcons.
I didn't start it.
You did your job. Oh no,
I didn't start it. Now, here's the second part of my mental health tip of the week. On a serious note, well, that was serious, but this on another series. Well, I was very serious about that first part of the tip. So here's the other part. Seriously. People get so consumed with regret that they get over into this toxic and negative headspace that really erodes their ability to perform at their absolute best a lot of the time moving forward, because they get in their head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my encouragement today is, I want not just the student athletes, professional athletes, but literally everybody that watches and listens to our show to start seeing the challenges in their life as a way to know yourself better. And what I mean by that is, when you're faced with difficult situations in life, i.e. looking back in retrospect, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, I should have did this, I should have did that, I regret that I didn't do this, instead of looking at it that way, I want you to consider trying to see what you now view as a regret as an opportunity for you to decide moving forward who you really are, and challenge yourself moving forward to see what you're truly capable of. You actually are in this amazing place and space in your life where rather than seeing regret as a regret, you can see the opportunity that you potentially missed as a gift. And that gift is connected to an experience that is really hiding this treasure. And what the treasure, Ronnie, is your authentic self. That the shoulda, coulda, wouldas don't define you. I call me crazy, but I just believe that if you were absolutely positively supposed to do it, if you were purposed to do it, you would have done it. People talk about oh, that's a missed opportunity. That's a missed opportunity. That's a missed opportunity. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I try to view it as a little bit more optimistic because I think that that keeps you sane. That you don't have to look back and regret at stuff. What can you learn from that experience about your authentic self? Think about this. When you continue to act in ways that don't align with who you truly are, i.e., your core values, you rob yourself of the opportunity to experience who you really can be in all of these different situations and circumstances in your life. You stop regretting stuff. Stop. If you go through life right now, here today, moving forward, with it purposed in your heart, mind, spirit, and soul to behave, think, and feel in a way that expresses your authentic self, if you choose to become more self-aware and make decisions, especially life-altering decisions, and you're doing that from a place and space where you're staying true to your core values and you are clearly defining what you really want, how you really want it, what is there to have a regret about? Stay true to your authentic self and don't be impulsive. Stop being so quick to make decisions on the fly, and you'll eliminate the opportunities that are arising for you to say, "Oh man, I should have did this. I should have did that." Stop being so quick to make quick decisions. Take time to calm the hype down, be still for a minute, and then move forward. Here's the thing. I am a firm believer, folks, that patience will always force deception to reveal itself. When you are preparing to make a decision about your athletic career, what scholarship you should accept, if that's, do you want to come out early and enter the draft? Any of those things, don't make those decisions impulsively. Take time to make the decision based on what matters to you most. Allow your core values and your moral code to be your beacon of light in your decision making. And it is my firm belief, professionally and personally, that when you do that, you will be able to move forward without regret of whatever it is you didn't do. And you will be able to view everything as a learning experience that connects you more and more and more with each decision that you make to your authentic self. Stay true to that, and there won't be a reason for regrets. That's all I got.
Glad I went first. That's all I'm gonna say.
So
I'm glad I went first because once again, like, thank you, Dr. Pitts, for that beautiful tip and that beautiful insight. Very much appreciated. And even, speaking about, holding on to regrets into adult years and things like that. That is something that I've had to reflect on and process and deal with as well, which we'll definitely talk about later in the show.
Yeah.
So some HBCU news. I have a couple things to share. So first and foremost, want to give a special shout out to Albany State and Bowie State, as they are actually both hosting playoff games today. Albany State is hosting West Georgia today, and Bowie State is hosting Lenore-Ryan University today in Bowie, Maryland. So shout out to both of them. Good luck to both of them.
Nice.
As I mentioned, Bowie State, I believe, is top 10 in the country for D2 as far as top 25 poll. And they are the number 2 seed in the Super Region 2. Super Region 3. I'm sorry. No, 2. I apologize. 2. Okay. They're number 2 seed in the Super Region 2 playoff rankings. And they are also undefeated in D2 play this year. With their only.
So Jared, like outside his look, Jared and Ted head this big.
I ain't talked to Jared since homecoming because
head all big. Have to stick a pin on him and get him through the door.
And you know what's crazy? I kid you not, and this is why I always say, like, you know, when we always played Bowie State, like, it didn't matter what our records were, like, it was going to be a close game. We only lost to Bowie by 7 points. It was 51. It was 51-44. It was 44 all, where I think maybe 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. Yeah. And so Bowie's the I think number 7 or 8 team in the country.
It was a dogfight, literally, and y'all hung with them.
Every single even when I was playing, when we were, you know, I think when we played Bowie my junior year, we were 5-1 at the time, and they were like 2-3. We went 3 overtimes. Yeah. Like, you know, so I always so
everybody play my Cowboys hard. Like, playing the Cowboys is everybody's Super Bowl. I'm just saying, Ronnie. You know, Ronnie, you know it's the truth.
All I'm saying is, you know, is that the truth. I was still, I mean, shoot, in 96, I was out. I wouldn't even had officially turned 3 yet the last time y'all won a Super Bowl. I was still in my terrible 2s the last time you all won a Super Bowl. It is.
And you know what's so funny? People say that all the time. And I know that there's some people that really get defensive and go off when people do that. And I don't. Because I'm like, okay.
Because
I'm just glad that we have some rings at all. And when I am just a firm believer that whoever season it is, it's whoever season. Like, I'm so glad that the Patriots' reign is over, at least for the time being.
Right? They're doing pretty good this year, though.
Let somebody else get a ring. Dang.
I don't think in football you will ever see a run like that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane.
A 20-year period and you get 7 Super Bowls. Yeah. You're not gonna see that. You're not gonna see that ever again. And you know, but I will say this though, like I always say, Cowboys fans are the only fans, and Knicks fans. Knicks fans are the same way. You know, you're from that area. I think you would agree that Knicks fans are also share the same delusions of grandeur that Cowboys fans do. It's like y'all should have your own substance use disorder in the DSM. Like, I don't know what it will be called. Like, I can't say it out loud, but you know, something Cowboys. Like, I don't know. Like, it has to be something that it can be put in the DSM-6 maybe when that comes out.
Look, Ronnie, we'll cover it. We'll think of something between now and when we do the cognitive distortion show at the beginning of the year.
Bet. All right, yeah, because you know what, and I think we need to pull. I got some Cowboys fans I can call right now. Like, look, I need y'all to come on the show because we need to talk about some cognitive distortion. We need to process these. Like, we're gonna give our listeners a free therapy session on air right now, centered around cognitive distortions of Cowboys fans. Now, look, things might get tense, and we might have to call crisis at some point in this conversation.
Oh, you're crazy.
But no. So, shout out to Bowie and Albany State. Nice. You know, it's wonderful to see that we have some HBCUs representing us in the D2 playoffs. Good luck to both of you all. The playoffs is the top 24 teams in the country. Yeah. So, you know, to be among the top 24 teams in the country and have a chance to win the national title. The last HBCU to actually get in the national title game was Winston-Salem State in 2012. So it is doable, Bowie.
A big deal.
And Albany State, it is doable. So, you know, good luck to you all. And also, I want to give another special shout out to Virginia State's own Trenton Cannon, as he is eligible for the Pro Bowl this year. Voting just started for the NFL Pro Bowl, and he is nominated as a special teams player. So for all our HBCU fans out there, please go to NFL.com, go to the Pro Bowl link where they have voting. And please, I think you have to sign up, make an NFL account on there. Please go on there, sign up, and vote for my former teammate Trenton Cannon. And I think also Darius Leonard, the former linebacker from South Carolina State, I think he's eligible for the Pro Bowl at linebacker. So like we always say, they sit there and tell you, oh, if you go to HBCU, it's gonna be harder for you. Don't let nobody tell you that. If you are that good, you will be seen. You will get your chance. You just have to put the work in. I mean, of course, not to oversimplify, there's other thing that goes in place, but you put the work in. Hey, all you can do is just give it and put it in God's hands and just hope for the best.
There it is.
So, shout out to all those wonderful people doing wonderful things in HBCU world. Did you have any HBCU news, Dr. Pitts, or anything?
I do. And this is actually the annual, the Florida Classic, which is going to be on ESPN3 today. The time wasn't posted when I pulled, but that's Bethune-Cookman and FAMU in Orlando, Florida at the Camping World Stadium. They play that game every year to Saturday before Thanksgiving. So that's a big one. So right about now, Orlando's on lock because everybody from Daytona Beach and Tallahassee has converged on Orlando for this game.
What?
Yeah,
that is about to be lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what though, Ronnie? One more thing. Well, one more thing on matter of fact, I was pulling it up because I was a bad resident. I forgot to announce it last week. I'm looking up to get so my alma mater high school, Salem Rams, Salem, New Jersey, head coach Montre Wright. Used to be one of my kids from Teens on Track for Success back in the day. Shout out to my Teens on Track for Success crew. Where we at today? Salem has been doing the darn things. They are state championship bound. And they played. So last Saturday, they beat Autobahn 42-7 for the NGSIAA tournament semifinal round for Group 1 football in Southern New Jersey. The Thanksgiving game against the Woodstown Wolverines, that is like arch rival. That is Salem's arch rivals are Woodstown and Pennsgrove, and some others too. But the Thanksgiving game every year since goodness before I was born. That's a big game. That's actually Thanksgiving Day at 10:30. It's going to be in Woodstown this year. But shout out to Montre Wright and our very own Salem Rams for doing the darn thing. The last time we won states in football, oh my gosh, it's been a long time. It's been longer than it's been since my Cowboys won the Super Bowl. And we haven't. Interestingly enough, the last time we won states for men's basketball was my senior year in high school. My senior year in high school, we went. That
wasn't that long ago though. That wasn't even that long. That was like 5 years ago.
Shouting out, sending love home to Salem High School Rams and Montre, right? And the football team. Go Rams. Go Rams. Go Rams. Go Rams.
Awesome.
I'm really excited about that.
That's what's up.
Hopefully they'll bring it on this time.
And also a quick shout out to your hometown player,
JT,
Jonathan
doing
Taylor.
the darn thing, ain't he?
Been killing it.
He's a beast.
He's been killing. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's now the league leader in rushing. If I'm not mistaken,
when they showed the stats, I don't remember seeing the stats last week, but the week before he was in second place, but he was knocking on the door hard. Wasn't it like Derrick Henry or somebody was in?
Yeah, Derrick Henry was the clear leader for a while, but I think he was like fourth or fifth.
JT is dragging him.
He is really. Yeah, shout out to him though. He has been killing it.
He is representing Salem in ways that Salem has just never been represented before. So really, really, really proud of him, and he's doing the darn thing.
I definitely always say, it's crazy how, just over the last 20 years, the position of running back, for all our, student athletes out there, A running back is a great position, but when we look at it from like a longevity standpoint in the league, I mean, you remember Todd Gurley for the
Mm-hmm.
Rams. You know,
Yep.
he's only 27. He's at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Le'Veon
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell's only 29. Le'Veon Bell's a year older than me. At
Yeah.
home now. Just got cut by the Ravens
Yeah.
last week.
Well, didn't you say one game that it's like the average career of a professional athlete is what 3.5 years or something like
Yeah,
that?
NFL
So
is about 3.5 years, and you don't
yeah,
get your pension until year 4.
yeah. So it's like,
Which is, I mean, it's funny when you say that the average time in the NFL is 3.5 years, and you don't get your pension until 4.
look, and that right now, Walmart used to do people like right before you was gonna be eligible for benefits, they would fire you.
Man, companies are. I knew that. I know this is way off topic, but I knew this one lady who worked for the Federal Reserve in
Mhm.
Richmond. She had been there for 23 years, and I think she had to be there for 25 in order to get her full pension for retirement. They let her go at 24,
Mhm. People don't.
and
It's not a coincidence. Like the folk are just cruddy with it. I'm like, okay,
it,
ain't nobody got
it's,
time
it's
for
crazy. But
that.
not to get too far off topic, but so look, y'all. As we said, today's topic is centered
Yeah.
around regret in sports and after sports. And when we think of the emotion regret, in a nutshell, to simplify it, regret is when you have, I would even go as far as to say that regret is when you have intrusive thoughts about woulda, coulda, shouldas, about events that hold
Mhm.
near and dear to your heart.
Mhm.
And so, from looking from a sports perspective, we see that oftentimes you always hear coaches, sit there and say, leave it all on the field, leave it all on the court, don't leave any effort out there, give it everything you got, because you don't want to have any regrets. Once it's over, it's over.
Mhm.
And you literally start hearing that at an early age. I mean, even in Little League, you hear coaches sit there and say, go out there and leave it all on the field, give it your 110%. If you're
Mhm.
not going to give your 110%, don't walk out on the field.
Yeah.
And, so I think oftentimes, especially from looking from a sports lens, I think one of the things we see when we think about regret, and it starts early, and you start to put this narrative in a young student athlete's mind at a very
Mhm.
early age that I have to be my all at all times when I walk on this field.
Yeah.
And we know in reality that's easier said than done. In any career, in any task or anything we do, it is always hard to be present fully in that moment and give your undivided, undistracted effort and attention and abilities into something at that time.
Mhm.
And so when you think about that as a young student athlete, and as you get older and get older and get older, one thing that starts to play in your mind is like, I know for me, I got time.
Mhm.
I started playing football at 8. And by the time I was 14, I was in high school, and I'm like, oh, I know high school. Well, now I got to start thinking about college. But even then, I'm still like, well, I know I'm gonna go play college football, so I got time.
Mhm.
And it's not until, I would say, for me personally, it's not until you probably get into maybe your senior year of high school. And I think
Mhm.
for me, that was the first time I ever really had to deal with the idea of regrets in sports.
Mhm.
And for me, I'll never forget it. When I first got to Virginia State my freshman year, first, like maybe the first week of practicing at the college level, as hype as I was to be, playing college football and stuff like that, I would be lying to you if I didn't sit there and say one of the first things I said when I would check in with some of my other friends at other schools and stuff is like, yo, if I knew this last year, what, bro, I wouldn't be here right now. What
Wow.
if I'd and I mean it was so little as like, oh, if I'd have known about this technique, if I'd have known, how to
Mhm.
how to read the defense this way, like if I'd have
Mhm.
had this information just a year ago,
Right.
probably not on y'all's practice field right now. And those were some of my first instances of really thinking about and dealing with regret.
Mhm.
And as I went through college and things like that, and when I got to the end of my college career, I think for me, I was one of the ones where my college career ended and my athletic career ended due to injuries. I had 4 knee surgeries going into my final year. And I knew at that chance, like any resemblance of a professional career was gone. And, at that point, it was just like, I'm just playing for memories.
Yeah.
But, for me, and I, one of the things I've always highlighted and I tried to, be open and honest with people is like, once again, it's like, I think for me, because I knew that was going to be my last season, even though I didn't want it to be, it's kind
Mhm.
of hard to be in the moment and also think about like, well, dang, like my football career is about to be over with. Like
Yeah.
I still had so much I wanted to do. I mean, at that point I was 20, I was 21. Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't supposed to stop playing football at 21. Like I was supposed to
Right.
continue playing. And so, for me, I think a lot of regret like hit me like a wave after my collegiate career.
Mhm.
And I think it was an encapsulation of just my entire football career all at one time, thinking like, well, in Little League, if I would have, maybe if I wouldn't have been, I don't know, like if I'd have maybe ran harder in Little League or in high
Mhm.
school, if I'd have, you know, I don't know, had better grades or had a better, if I'd have, took Spanish more seriously. You start just adding all these little things that have been like, what, this is why my career ended the way it did.
Mhm.
And I will say this, for me, dealing, having to face regret head on, regret will make you dismiss a lot of the good things you did as well. It will
Yeah,
make you
well.
it will make you gaslight a lot of your successes and opportunities.
Mhm.
For me, like it was hard to in the moment to recognize like like I always say, like I was a decent football player. I
Mhm.
was, all American 3 times in college. I was all first team all conference all 3 years. I started I think 36 straight games. you
Mhm.
know Individually I did very well, but in the moment it was very hard to sit there and try and appreciate that, because it was like, well, what if I never would have had those knee surgeries? Like
Mm.
one of the biggest regrets I always have, and I think anybody who's ever suffered an injury in sports would definitely empathize with this, is like one of the biggest regrets for me was like I always think like if I would have never heard my knee pop when I was squatting, what could have been?
Mhm.
Like, because my last 2 seasons, I basically played with half knees. Like my knees weren't even like, they were just shot up knees. Like they were numb the
Mhm.
entire my last 2 seasons playing. So one of the biggest things I always asked myself was like, what could my career have amounted to if I had never suffered those injuries? And knee injuries as a lineman are debilitating, especially, I was at a school where medical resources and things like that were subpar at best. Not, not be from a lack of effort, but just from a lack of
Mhm.
financial resources. So,
Mhm.
there wasn't a lot of, and we didn't have underwater treadmills or hot and cold tubs. I mean, we had a cold tub, but we,
Mhm.
things like, but we didn't have a lot of the financial resources for, to
Mhm.
have, you know, top of the line rehab stuff like that. And so, you factor all those things in, and it's easy to justify and sit there and be like, well, was my career really that great? Did I really do a lot of things that I wanted to do? Because it's like, I didn't go out on my own terms. I didn't end the way I wanted to. I didn't,
Mhm.
somebody, because I listened to somebody else trying to be a good player, I screwed my knees up, and
Mhm.
because I was trying to listen to the training staff, I probably could have went somewhere else and, probably wouldn't have suffered the way I suffered. But those are all easy conclusions and easy things to, point blame and justify when you're feeling hurt, you're feeling upset, you're feeling lost, you're feeling insecure and
Mhm.
vulnerable. It's easy to come up with those conclusions in the face of regret.
But you know what, Ronnie? And some people might say, "Shit, Dr. Fitz make me sick." But here's the thing, and I don't. This is one of those things where, as you're talking, I'm sitting here making notes because I'm like, just different things were coming up, and I was like, okay, that's a show topic next year. That's a show topic next year. That's a show topic next year. Um, I believe what is really important for people to get when it comes to regrets is life doesn't have a rewind button.
Absolutely.
It was several years ago. I don't even know. God, I guess it was God. I don't know if you or any of our audience has ever seen the movie with Ashton Kutcher called The Butterfly Effect. And
I haven't
I,
seen it, but I've heard of it before.
yeah,
Yes.
I use the movie The Butterfly Effect. in treatment when I'm working with clients that are dealing with regret, because I think that it's important for people to understand that you can't just you get so bogged down with regret. I think that part of it is just a lack of gratitude and humility
Hmm.
about, the blessings that you did have, the good experiences that you did have. That, like, that um why isn't that enough to for you to be thankful and grateful for? Because some people didn't get to play at all. You have kids that are paraplegics or that have different disabilities that would love to play and can never play, and you got to play whether or not you went to the league or not. But the whole concept of the movie The Butterfly Effect is that you can't turn back the hands of time without altering everything.
Mm.
You can't. So hypothetically, you go back and things are different. You don't have the knee surgeries. You end up, playing longer. Let's say hypothetically you do go to the league, right? You get
Hmm.
drafted, and I don't know. Say you get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, and you come set up. You get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys,
I see what
and
you did
you
there.
go
I see what you did there.
you know, and you come to the DFW Metroplex and you're playing for Jerry and the boys. Well, guess what? Then there's no Neek. Then there's no Mrs. Ronnie Ransome. There's no Eli.
That
You
is
know,
true.
you um you go to University of Maryland instead of Virginia State, and you encounter racism on campus, and it pulls you off your square. You fly somebody's head, catch a charge, education. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
many different things can happen. It's like the trajectory that we're on in our lives. I just don't, and I know that all of our listeners aren't like leaders or anything like that. So I'll just put it this way, that everything happens for a reason, right? And there's significance to things happening the way that they do. And the moment you go to undoing stuff the way that it happened, i.e., you know, regret, because in essence, that's what regret is. Regret is your angst about not being able to hit the rewind button of life and do things differently. But it goes
Hmm.
back to what I said about the tip. What about if you use every single solitary experience as a way to get to know yourself better, as a way to make different decisions or better decisions moving forward? Then you're eliminating the likelihood that you're going to regret stuff. Like, stop doing that to yourself. It's emotional torture to just walk around through life with all these regrets. And I believe too, Ronnie, that it's about having a right attitude. It's like, how can you perform at your best athletically or even in life and get the results that you want if all you're doing is regretting the shoulda, coulda, wouldas? You're literally expending energy on stuff that you can't change. Why not rechannel that energy and put your brain on a frequency of what you really want, how you really want it, when you gonna get it, and put a blueprint together that moves you in the direction of what you say you really want. Stop expending your energy and your effort on stuff that you cannot undo. When you do that, all regret is living life looking in your rearview mirror. And what I say to my clients, and I say this to them in the very first session, staying stuck in your past, having the regrets about all the stuff that you could have did, should have did, would have did, if this, that, and the third had happened, is the equivalent of flying down the highway at 100 miles an hour looking in your rearview mirror. You are going to crash. There are probably going to be fatalities, and you are going to be doing yourself and everybody connected to you in literally every domain of your life a disservice because you are expending your energy and your effort the wrong way. Get over it and move forward. And again, be very intentional in making decisions for your life based upon your core values. And guess what? Even at that, Ronnie, everything is not going to go the way we want it to go.
Mm.
Everything is not going to go the way we want it to go. I look at, when I went to school, it's like, my family wanted me to go to Howard and I wanted to go to Johnson and Wales. And, I thought I was going to marry Andre's dad. And then I ended up married. It's like, it doesn't go. What I look like sitting here at 54 years old, regretting that I didn't do X, Y, or Z. For what? I can't do nothing about it. I can't do nothing about it.
And you make a lot of great points, and it was making me think about, we were talking about this before the show and things, and I think to your point, regret is like looking, in the rearview mirror while trying to move forward. It's a contradiction within itself. It's like, how can you have? It's almost like when you sit there and tell somebody like you can't be depressed and happy at the same time. It's like it's two conflicting emotions. Just like it's kind of hard to have regret and anxiety at the same time, because which one is more
you tripping about the
conflicting?
future, or you tripping off the past? Pick one.
Exactly.
I'm gonna need you to pick a direction.
Exactly. And so as clinicians, one of the first things we always ask, I know, even though they say you shouldn't, but I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to know, well, why? Why do you as an individual process, analyze, and conclude these type of behaviors or emotions or statements or beliefs that you present to the world? And when we look at regret, especially within a sports context, I think about, like, for me, for example, and I'm pretty sure there are a number of student athletes out there like this. For me, like I said, I was all in on football. From the moment I realized that I was good at football myself, and I realized that this was something that I could actually do really, really well, I was all in and I was sold. For me, and this was as an adult, I realized this was a very maladaptive way to view the world. But back then, when you play a sport as a kid, and they tell you, oh, not only can you play the sport as a kid, but if you're really good, you can play the sport as an adult and get paid a lot of money for it. Well, sign me the hell up. Like, what?
Right. Yesterday, please.
Yeah, like, you mean to tell me this sport that I'm playing at 7 and 8 years old, I can be 27 and 28 and I don't have to go punch a clock. I ain't got to go to like an office. I get to go play football? Huh? Well, sign me up. And so, and what do we know as clinicians? We know that with any thought, with anything in life, if you believe it enough times over, if you condition yourself to be in that moment or in that mindset, eventually that will be your unconscious thoughts, your unconscious, motives and things like that. And so for me, at a very early age, I realized football could be a way where I could live a life that I would be proud of.
Yeah,
and I was all in. And like so many other student athletes who are sold on the same dream of, you can play this sport as an adult, make lots of money, and really just coast off into the sunset. How good does that sound? Just like as adults, what do we have? We have the lottery. If you pay for this $1 ticket at this random gas station in the middle of nowhere, USA, could net you the same amount of money that Jay-Z is worth, that Diddy is worth.
Isn't the Powerball worth 200 and some million today?
Shoot.
I saw the billboard when I went to the dentist on Thursday. I was driving down I-35 and I said, Powerball worth 200. It was on Thursday, the billboard said 205 million. Don't the Powerball come out on Monday nights and Saturday nights or something like that?
I'm looking at it right now. It actually comes out today. Right now
it's 200 and some million.
205 million.
See, that's what I'm telling you.
And it's crazy. I always say, shoot, I'm not a lottery person, because I feel like that is just an easy way to fall into an addiction that is just going to be disappointing.
I only look, so the folk ain't damning me to hell and saying that I don't know Jesus. But if it gets really, 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 really high like that, I'll play it.
I definitely
Yeah.
what?
Like, remember that time it was like $1.9 billion or something like that? I'm
And I
like,
def and
you
I
look,
definitely
quit front. You pastors was playing that. Look, the building
because
fund was about to be paid smooth off.
and
Like,
and
stop
and so
playing.
and so think about it, like anybody can win that, like
Yeah.
anybody. And it's just like
Stop.
imagine if you were the person who matched all five numbers and didn't get the Powerball. Instead of 205 million, you get 1 million. But you know what you focused on? You like, well, I could have had 205
Like,
million.
is you crazy?
But you just won 1 million. But you so mad and like, well, if I'd have just said this number,
Ungrateful dummy.
and so when when we look at it from a football or even just a sports concept, like for me, I was all in. And by high school, I was beyond all in. I had all my chips pushed to the center of the table. And I think, one of the easiest ways for a student athlete or a professional athlete to set themselves up, and we know this even just in just life, you cannot have all your eggs in one basket because something will happen. It's not that you want something to happen, but something will happen. That is just a part of how it goes. And so I think one of the easiest ways, and for my listeners out there today, and we talked about this on the show, I think, and I'll say this, and I think, if anybody has a different opinion about this, please reach out to me and please feel free to share your opinion about this. But I think, because if you're asking my honest opinion, I think by the time you get to high school and college, like the love of football, yes, absolutely, it is there. It is real. You have, especially if you play a college sport, you have to have some type of love for it, like, because you're not going to subject yourself to that amount of expectations and pressure and just on the day-to-day grind for 4 to 5 years and not love it. Like, that would just be insanity, or what we call abuse, being stuck in something that just is not beneficial for you at all.
Yeah.
But I will also be lying if I didn't say also the lure of the financial security and the financial reward of playing that sport. And I think, like I said, listeners, tell me if you're wrong, or tell me if you feel like I'm wrong. But I will say, for me personally, like, I will be lying if I didn't say, like, that lure of, like, could be set for life. Hell, even if I played a year of football, depending on what city I played in, if I did my things right, 1 year of playing in the NFL could have set me up for life.
Well, that's the thing, Ronnie. It's like, even when you hear, like, when you watch a football life, so many of those stories, and even, during the draft, when Deion Sanders is, interviewing the folks that have been drafted, so many of them, white and black, and other ethnicities too, you hear so many of these young men talking about all they want to do is be able to take care of their mom. All they want to be able to do is take care of their family. Some of them are coming into the draft with children already. All I want to do is be able to provide a better life for my child. 99.9% of them, when you take time to listen to them, it's all about provision. It's all about stability. It's all about, like, I've never heard anybody say on the draft when they hit that interview that, oh, I'm going out to buy me an 11-car garage house and I'm going to get me this. No, they talk about family and how important it is to them to change the financial trajectory of their family system's life. And that's huge.
And it is. And I will say that, to your point, and we've spoke about this before. I think one of the detriment, I understand the how powerful the influence and the motivating factor is. And I've always said this. And when we had Starks on the show back in September, this is one of the things I asked him, is like, I feel like, to some extent, that all these professional sports leagues, I would say football probably the most, because of just like, football is a very specific sport, and it's a young man sport. Like, it's a very young man sport. But I will say this, I would be lying if I didn't say that football and the NFL specifically, that they don't have a preference for people who need football, not want it. Because I give you an example. somebody like, and you see how like once this narrative gets out about a player like this, you see how the league reacts and how they move about this person. Early example would be the quarterback Josh Rosen, who was selected by the Cardinals back in 2018, I believe. He was, I think, their number 10 overall pick. One of the biggest knocks on him coming out of college, he played college at University of California, by physical standards and everything. I mean, just golden arm, accurate, like just your prototypical quarterback. Everything you could want physically in a quarterback. But the one thing they said is we don't know how mentally invested he is in football, is because he has outside interests outside of football. So his love of football might not be there compared to somebody, like you said, who is trying to take care of their family, who's trying to take care of their kids, or whatever the case may be. His hunger and motivation and desire to basically give his life to this game might not be as high as somebody, if we find another quarterback who comes from a middle-class family,
right.
Parents had to take out loans for them to go to college, and, they went to college, they were an underdog, they hit a growth spurt in college, they had a good couple seasons, and here they are at the NFL when they thought for 1 second it might not be possible, and now they have this golden opportunity. That kid in their mind is going to give you the entire life to make it.
Look at the difference. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because look, for example, in the narratives that you hear from the Manning brothers, from the Watt brothers, from Patrick Mahomes. I mean, his dad was, baseball. Who else has multiple?
The Edmonds brothers. There's 3 Edmonds brothers in the NFL.
Yeah. Like
the Fullers.
You have some of these players who it's a legacy in their family of professional athletic involvement. So to your point, they don't have to, if they Howie Long's son, it's
Chris
like
Long,
I crack up because Chris, right? He was like, oh, what? I can't smoke weed. He's like, you know what? Look, he got his ring with the Patriots. He got his ring with the Eagles. And then they had said he couldn't smoke weed. He said, peace. He don't have to. He don't have to play another down of football, because he good. Yeah. He's good.
And so then, and so to that point, I think once again, tying all of this into regret, I think for our student athletes who are out there listening, I think you have to find a balance of, yes, the love of football, the love of whatever sport you play is one of the motivating factors for you to go out there and put in the effort, the time, the discipline, the care, the attention to detail, all those things that you attribute to your sport and what you do to perform as a student athlete. However, every student athlete has heard this, every professional athlete has heard this, and it is very true. There will be a day that you will not be that football player, that you will not be that basketball player or baseball player or softball or hockey or whatever the case may be. That day will come. And we kind of talked about this last week as well. It is so important to not have a sports performance-based identity, because if your identity is rooted in your sport or your athletic abilities, you will have almost what might feel like a midlife crisis type of situation, because you are going through an identity crisis. And then and like I said, for me, when I was in the middle of my identity crisis of shifting from having a athletic-based performance identity to just having my own individual identity, regret was so easy for me, because I could easily point the finger and just blame football for everything that was going on to me. This sport, this inanimate object, this thing that's not even a real thing. You can't physically touch football. You have the football in itself, the ball and whatnot, but this thing that I played for so many years was the scapegoat, was the catalyst to fuel my regret and to fuel my anger and depression behind it, because that was my identity. And so I say all that to say to our listeners, and especially for parents who have kids who might be going through this, or they might see where their kid is starting to develop this all-in mentality on sports. That is fine. It's cool. I mean, even for our high school listeners, look, love your sport. Give it your all. With anything, always give it your all. But you also have to understand, especially when you're talking about, this is what I always tell people, football, as much as it is a sport, it's also a business. And if you want to get into the professional leagues, it is much more of a business than anything. You have to be business minded. That was one of the biggest points that James Starks had mentioned on our show, was that even for him, by the time he got to the league by year 2, he realized like, oh, like this could be over at any moment.
Right.
Like,
right. Look,
but
tomorrow is not promised in this world.
exactly. You know, I mean, look at like, you know, look how easily injuries happen to NFL players. Like Chase Young, like this is year 2, like had a phenomenal rookie season coming into year 2. Now, unfortunately, he's towards ACL. Now his season's over with. Right. And so, you know, even for him, like that mounting pressure going into year 3, where he can be eligible for a contract extension, I could easily see in a situation where easily regret could sit in a situation where it's like, dang, like if I was able to finish this season and bounce back because my season didn't start off very well and things like that. Those, it's so easy for intrusive thoughts to creep into your mind, especially in a moment of vulnerability and a moment of hurt. And I would even say that when you feel, I always say like I had a love-hate relationship with football, because what I put into football, 9 times out of 10, I got out of it. Until I got to college and I started getting hurt. And I felt like, well, hell, I'm putting in all this effort into football, and football just, I mean, saying like, not enough, not worthy, nope, we're gonna do this. And it's just like, yo, like I keep on giving you my all, you're not giving me nothing in return. Yeah, I mean, literally just like, nope, I'm good with you. Nope, that's not enough. That's not enough. And so you start to build up this animosity and this resentment towards, because with anything we put our all into, whether it's a business, a relationship, friendship, you start to put your all into it, and you start to realize like, I'm not getting the return I thought I would, or that I feel like I deserve. And when you're in that moment of vulnerability and hurt and resentment towards something that you love so much, it is so easy for those intrusive thoughts of regret to set in. How many times in relationships, when a relationship just goes to hell, you start to sit there and say, well, I mean, they were doing this when we first got together, but you know, I just thought it would pass. I thought they would grow up. I thought they would change. And, you know, I love them. It's so easy for us to sit there and have those regretful thoughts. And it's like, well, I mean, you knew that from jump. So why did you think things would change now until they happen? So I'm gonna stop talking now, because I know I just went on a very long rant. And
you're fine.
But you know, like I said, it's so easy, and it's so like when I always say, like when you put your eggs all in one basket, and your motivating force, especially in sports, becomes that financial motivation as much as it is just to have to play the sport, you really set yourself up for it going left.
You brought up, as always, you brought up some really, really, really key points, and I based on the way you said it, I'm gonna flip the coin of regret, because you touched on the parents, and I want to look at regret through the lens, through the parental lens, and the athlete's lens, in that, you know, we have some helicopter parents out here, right? And you have parents who, you know, the kid wants to play. Again, you think about the Colin Kaepernick black and white, and everybody's pushing him to play baseball. And he's like, no, I want to play football. If I don't at least try, I'm going to regret it. And I don't want to have regrets. He could not seem to get that through people's head. And then there came a point in time where his dad was like, you know what, took him to the quarterback, you know, training camp and the whole 9 yards, and really got on board, because initially it was like, oh, well, you know, it's going to be okay. And a lot of times what parents do is, because they don't want their kids' dreams to be dashed, because they don't want the child to be disappointed, because they do know that the likelihood that the child is going to go pro is very, 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 very slim, or they're afraid that the child is going to get hurt, set her in helicopter mode and all these things. But at the end of the day, what we know to be true is that when you play it safe, you have little to no chance of seeing, right? You can't win a race that you don't enter. You have to be willing to, at least, if you're serious about it, you have to be willing to at least try to see, in order to determine what level of success that you're going to obtain. If you don't try at all, you're leaving yourself wide open for the regret, right? At least put to forth, parents, I'm saying, at least let the kid try. Stop telling them what they can't do and what they can do, and the whole 9 yards, and give the student athlete in particular the opportunity to express their autonomy. Give them a chance to clinically, what we refer to is having a high differentiation of self, where you're allowing them to make decisions based on their core values, based on what matters to them most. I used to always say, when Andre was younger, people, it was like I got both ends of the argument. Some people said that I was too strict, and some people said I was too liberal. But the bottom line is, you teach a child how to make sound decisions for themselves, and then give them a chance to exercise that. How will they ever learn how to make good sound decisions if you're always making decisions for them, if you're requiring them to notify you about everything? Yeah, it's all fine, well, and good for them to ask your opinion, but at the end of the day, playing it too safe, tell me if I'm wrong, Ronnie, but it sounds a lot like the fear of failure. And I believe that what prevents athletes from laying it on the line at times, or what prevents parents from supporting their student athlete from laying it all on the line and going all in, is a fear of failure. And I want to give our audience this visual. I want you to draw a circle that's about this big. And in that circle, I want you to draw a stick figure of your kid, right? And I want you to name that circle comfort zone. Inside the circle, above your kid's stick figure head, I want you to write the word discomfort. And below your kid's little stick figure feet, I want you to write the word discontent. Then the perimeter of the circle, all the way around it, with the little line for the circle that you drew, I want you to write the word over and over and over again: fear, anxiety, fear, anxiety, fear, anxiety, fear, anxiety, fear, anxiety. Your comfort zone, the discomfort and the discontent that represents your child's comfort zone, is being encapsulated by fear and anxiety if you don't allow your child the space to at least try and see how successful they can be. Beyond the perimeter of that fear and anxiety is infinite possibilities for monumental success. And even if the child doesn't go to the league, even if the high school student athlete, for example, doesn't get the athletic scholarship, you never know, they might be able to walk on. Stop dashing your kids' dreams and let them play and have fun. It reminds me, remember, everybody knows one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans, when Boone took over and they had called for their first team meeting, and Louis Lassett came running, the big lineman. He came running in from Bayonne, New Jersey. And they was like, right here. He was like, somebody said football. I came running. I ain't worried about going to college. I just want to hit somebody. Have fun. Have fun with it, because when you take risks, your chances of missing increase as well. But again, the nature of risk is that they're uncertain. You will never be able to win a race that you don't enter. You'll never be able to win. Nothing beats a failure but a try. And look at every opportunity as a chance to grow. Look at every opportunity as a chance. Do not allow yourselves as parents, or even allow your kids, to operate from a place of fear. Any athlete at any level, at some point in time, just like every human being on the face of the planet, at some point in time in their academic and athletic trajectory, they have encountered some degree of fear. Some of the most successful athletes to ever grace the athletic world didn't achieve the levels of success that they've had away from fear. They achieve the levels of success that they have in the face of fear. They just pushed through it. Stop acting like being afraid is somehow making you soft or weak or whatever the case may be. It's okay. Why you think right before the Super Bowl and right before the NBA finals and right before the World Series, you hear athletes talking about the nerves? They're nervous. Well,
Mhm.
what is nervousness? It's a degree of fear that you're not going to perform at your best. But we see they push through it, don't they?
Yeah.
They push through it. They go out there. They play hard. Where would Cam Newton be if, when the Patriots fired him, he played it safe and was like, oh, maybe I should just go on home and sit down and just, it's over. Nah, he back in Charlotte doing what Cam do,
Yeah.
having at it. Where's Des Bryant making Uber Eats commercials? It's all good.
That is true. And,
It's all
and,
good.
you made a great point. And going back to the parental lens of it, and I think one thing, I think parents, I always say that, parents have to have a fine line of allowing their children to, see life for what it is, and also be able to help them make sense of it. Because what do we know as clinicians, just kids in general, after when it gets about 10 or 11, 9 times out of 10, they're tuning their parents' ear out and they're listening to their friends, the peers, older peers, and things like that to make sense of how life is. Because what do we always hear? Oh, you too old to know what's going on. You don't understand what I'm going through.
Think we don't know nothing.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to, really get a sense of, like, what's my kid going through and things like that. But one of the things I always tell parents is, like, helping your kid prepare for the real world is monumental, and it's key. And when you have a helicopter parent or a parent who is very apprehensive about allowing their kid to fail or go through hurt and things like that, I always put the onus back on parents to be like, look, even in your life, has I would imagine the same protection you give your children, you would give yourself. So has that same protection you are offering your children and giving yourself, has that 100% eliminated everything bad in your life? No. Have you as an adult giving your all throughout your life, has that always yielded everything you wanted? No. That's life. But however, the most important part is how you respond to that adversity, how you respond to that setback. That is what is important. And also understanding that, and even for me, as becoming a new parent, I'm learning this as well. Like, you have to always rely on things that you can remember. Like, look, you were a kid once as before. You also had these same thoughts about the world and stuff like that. You have to get through it. For most children, they are learning life, and they are learning how to reflect back on things as they get older in the moment. So of course their anxiety, their fear of what's going to happen next will always be greater, because it's just like, we don't know. But as adults, I always feel like I love working with kids as a clinician, because it's like, I see a lot of the same behaviors and mindsets and things that a lot of the kids I work with that I also had as a child. And I feel like as an adult is key for me to be able to give them insight on those emotions, and how me as an adult, how I've used things to help deal with those emotions. Because emotions are the same whether you're a kid or an adult. A kid being mad and an adult being mad, both are mad,
It's
but
true.
but it's important for the adult to be able to model and emulate for that child how to handle how to handle being mad, how to handle setbacks, how to handle giving your all and not getting the results you want. Those are extremely important. And to your point, I think oftentimes parents will instill fear or doubt into their kids, whether they're aware of it or not in the moment, because of their own insecurities and their own failures and setbacks, and they've never had a chance to process them or deal with them in an appropriate manner. So, for example, to your point, if a kid wants to play football, that dad might be like, "Oh, no, you can't play. You're gonna get hurt. You don't know. You ain't gonna know what you're doing out there.
You clumsy.
Yeah, and then so
You accident prone.
you have to be aware of that, and so, and to your other point about just the anxiety, it made me think of something. When you think about athletes having fear and nervousness before games and stuff like that, one of the things I try to especially talk with student athletes about now is like, of course those butterflies are normal and things like that. We always have those butterflies. And I always tell people this, the way I look at like, the nerves and anxieties of before a game or before a match or before a championship game or anything like that, I think you can look at it just like with life. I think oftentimes, like when we have these ideas, when we have our moments of, our to ourselves and things like that, and we think about our life and think about what we want to do and things like that, I would like to think that most adults or most people like to think very optimistically about their future and like to think very highly of, where they're going in life. And oftentimes you always hear, I've always heard people say, if your dreams don't scare you, you're not thinking big enough. And so when I think about, nervousness and fear before, athletic events, one of the things I always try to think about is like, this nervousness and fear that I'm feeling, like, I think the best thing I can do in this moment is to prove myself right. Because I know beyond the fear, beyond that initial wall of fear and nervousness before a game, before a match, before whatever it is, like, I know I have the ability to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I need to prove myself, not prove people wrong, prove myself right.
Yep.
Prove myself right that I'm worthy of being here in this moment. Prove myself right that I'm worthy of going out on this field or this court and doing what I can do because I did this to get here. So why wouldn't I be the one to deliver this now? Yeah. And so, I think for our athletes out there listening and things like that, keep that in mind. It's extremely important to remember that with anything, fear can arise in any situation, and so equally so can regret arise in any situation. But even when we speak about regret, I think one of the athletes that I always like to listen to when they talk about regret is Kobe Bryant. And before he had passed away, one of the things that he had mentioned in one of his interviews that he did was that for him, the reason that he had the Mamba mentality, the reason that he was in the mindset that he was in, because he knew that regret, like I said, regret is a very easy thing to have in anything we do. We can always sit there and say, well, I could have did this more, I should have studied more, I should have lifted weights more, I should have ran more sprints, or whatever the case may be. All these things could have been done more. But for him, he was like, I made sure that I was in the moment as much as possible to give my all as much as possible. So that way, when I walked away, I wouldn't have no regrets. The only thing I would think about and reflect on were the good times and the memories I did make, because even my setbacks, even my failures, even my shortcomings motivated me and gave me fuel to continue to prove myself right, that I am a great player, that I am a great athlete and a great person. And so I think, in that, and like I said, even for me, like when I had to face regret head on and then think about all the intrusive thoughts that I was having about my athletic career and, and things like that, I had to tell myself, like, well, I put myself in this position. I got myself here. There were a lot of great things that I did, and football in hindsight put me in a great position to further my life and, to be the best person I can be, to be the best husband and father I could be because of what football taught me. And so, yeah, like, would I have wanted to play in the NFL? Of course. Like, I mean, yeah, what football player doesn't want to play in the NFL, but I didn't make it. And that's fine. Today, I can stand here today as an adult and be like, you know what? My athletic career was a moment in my life that was extremely fun. And I had a lot of great memories and a lot of great times. But that does not mean that just because my athletic career has ended, that my life as well has ended.
Sure.
That was a chapter in my life that is now closed. And so now I have a son. As he gets older, I will definitely share with him my athletic career. And because do I look at it with regret now? Not at all. I can honestly, like I said, I can honestly stand and say that as a D2 center at a Black school who played 14 years of football, I'm fine with it. Like, I mean, I did something that not a lot of people can say they did. I mean, I played football at a collegiate level. I played football at a very high level. I played against some very talented athletes who play in the league to this day. So it wasn't a matter of, am I worthy? It was a matter of, what did I take from this? What do I get from this? And football provided me so many things that, to your point, I would be selfish and ungrateful to not highlight those moments. It would be selfish of me to not highlight those moments and all the things that football has done for me.
Well, Ronnie, what that is, that's a key tip for you know, our audience to acknowledge in how to deal with regret. It's all about acknowledging your feelings and staying true. You know, people say speak your truth. You know, it's staying true to what feelings are associated with it and taking the time to really acknowledge, you know, rather than shrugging it off like, oh, you know, I ain't sweating it with whatever. No, acknowledge how you really feel about it, because acknowledging how you really feel about it is going to be instrumental in helping you to avoid obsessing about it,
Mhm.
and helping you to avoid obsessing about it is going to increase your ability to cope with it better. And coping with it better is going to give you the ability to reflect, just like Ronnie did, in the hopes that you'll be able to show yourself more kindness in the process and recognize that, you know what, well, at least I did try. And that's the other thing on a sidebar on that, you know, stop letting people kick your back in about what you should have did and what you could have did and what you did. That was something that came up in Colin Kaepernick's documentary too. Is like everybody was busy telling him what to do. And it's like looking at it with my clinical mind, it's like there was a whole bunch of people that were attempting to live vicariously through him. It's like he wants to play football. Yeah, he was a beast at baseball, but do you want him to play baseball for you, or do you want him to play baseball for him? It
Mhm.
sounded as if in the documentary that all these people were living vicariously through him, and there were all of these hidden motives and intentions underneath why everybody was pressing him out, pressing him out, pressing him out. But when you think about the butterfly effect, when you think about the fact that there is no rewind button for life, some of the things that have come about in the NFL as a result, some of the revelation knowledge that people have gotten, some of the awareness that has been raised now, that couldn't have happened because he wouldn't have been there to take the kneel had he played baseball. You know what I mean? So it's like this whole cyclical process that literally has the ability to impact everything. You also got to give yourself time to heal. Stop being, we're human. We're
Yeah.
going to make mistakes. We are all infallible. We are all imperfect. You're not going to always get it right. And that is okay. Allow yourself time to heal. Stop beating yourself up over the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and make the decision, as I said, to shift that energy. Shifting that energy will actually distract you from wallowing in regret. Create a new set of goals.
Mhm.
Do what now? What? Okay, that, like you said, your focus now is on being a dad and being a good husband. Those are phenomenal, phenomenal goals to have. Phenomenal goals to have. They're beautiful goals to have. So you can put other goals in place. Have a freaking timeline. Everybody's not Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep.
Everybody's not going to play football till they're 50. It's unrealistic. They are the exceptions to the daggone rule. Put some new goals in place. And here's the thing, consider seeing a Dr. Pitts or a Ronnie Ransom. Because when you allow yourself to just wallow in this low place and space of these regrets, you're going to mess around and you're going to have yourself in a state of depression. Because what I tell you, the simplest way to look at what depression is obsessively thinking about all things negative.
Mhm.
Get some counseling, go see a therapist to help you to process through this so that you're not stuck in the cesspool of regret. And oh, by the way, here's a big one. Ask yourself some hard questions about the situation. And that's why I said I think it's really important for people, Ronnie, to take a look at what are the true intentions. Yeah, like, are you just wanting to play football so that you can get your family out of poverty, or do you genuinely and sincerely love the game because you love the game, and whether or not you go pro or not, you still love the game? And here's the
Mhm.
difference. I believe those athletes that didn't go pro but are still on, you know, the community kickball team and the community baseball team and the community, you know, or they decide to coach kids or do whatever. I believe those individuals are the ones that genuinely and sincerely love the sport beyond just what provision the sport
Mhm.
can provide. And I think that that's so important, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be transparent. You have to ask yourself the hard questions about why you have so many regrets. Do you have regret because you feel like people see you as a failure now? Do you have regret because you feel like people, never believed in you in the first place? Do you feel like a failure now because you were already dealing with insecurities around your self confidence and self worth? And as Ronnie said, you had this sports identity that the only time you feel good about yourself is when you was on the field, the court, or on the the baseball diamond. You have to understand, and we're telling you this from a clinical perspective, you have to understand the toll that regret can have on your physical and your emotional well-being. That is not a place and space that you want to stay in, because you're going to mess around. You're going to allow regret to intensify, and you're going to intensify yourself right on into a mental health condition. And that is not the place or space that you want to be. There are options for you out here. We want you to take advantage of them. Get some gratitude. We got some gratitude journals. Email me. I'll send you a gratitude journal. you know, give us a call, shoot us an email. We'll give you some insight. You can do a free consultation. Everybody charging you for everything. Get some answers and try to do a better job of being you. You gotta, you gotta be grateful. Folk gotta be grateful, Ronnie. You gotta be
That's very
grateful.
true.
There is no life rewind button. Stop driving down the freeway at 100 miles an hour looking in your rearview mirror. You gotta stop it. You gotta stop it. You need to apologize and forgive yourself. Apologize and forgive yourself. Give us your final thoughts, Ronnie, and I'll close this out.
I that last sentence right there is a great way for me to summarize everything we talked about today. And like I said, it is so easy, very easy to allow intrusive thoughts of regret and disappointment and I didn't do enough. It's so easy for those thoughts to creep into our mind when we are in a state of vulnerability or in a state of hurt or in a state of anger and things like that, especially when it is related to sports. It's so easy to be in that mindset because you want to know why. Like, why did I put all this effort into something and this is what I got in return for it? I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get what I expected. I didn't get what society told me I was going to get if I did X, Y, and Z. I did X, Y, and Z. It didn't go my way. I always say sports are a microcosm of society. And just like within society, with anything that we do and we give our all to, there is nothing that guarantees that it will go your way or give you the result that you want. And that is fine. And so my final word to our student athletes out there listening and to the parents of student athletes, sports, like we said last week, sports are something you do. They are not you.
That's right.
Enjoy your time being a student athlete because it is fleeting. It feels like when you're in the moment that you have forever, but it will end one day, and that's fine. But in that moment, enjoy the moment. It will be setbacks, it will be failures, it will be letdowns, it will be moments where you're like, yo, why am I doing this? Embrace all of that and understand that those are just challenges along the way for you to prove to yourself that you are great, that you deserve this, that you are worthy, and that your efforts will not go in vain because something will come out of it. And so that's my final thoughts for on this topic. And thank you for all those who have been listening.
Ronnie, my grandpa always would tell us, shut up all that crying over spilt milk. Yeah. Why are you being all mean and insensitive? But that's exactly what regret is. It's crying over spilled milk. Rather than crying over spilled milk, rather than wallowing in regrets, folks, why not consider embracing your personal strengths? Why not celebrate the successes that you have had? Because here's the deal, and this is what we're leaving you with today. If you allow yourself to continue to wallow in regret, you need to know that doing so will stifle your joy. in your life because it leads to being disempowered. You, in essence, are making a choice by living in regret to forfeit your power to be your authentic, amazing, extraordinary best self. Why? Because regret further causes us to feel shame, sadness, fear of failure, rejection, and all of this remorse about decisions we've made in our lives. What we know to be true is regret can also contribute to anxiety and even depression. And we don't want that for you. Celebrate every success that you have. Put a game plan together to tap into your authentic self and move forward, goal oriented, not regret centered. That's all we have for today, folks. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back next week. Ronnie, I got my fingers crossed. Yeah, we in KC tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Everybody, I don't hear nothing about the Chiefs not playing well. I'm not falling for that. Not falling for that.
Hopefully balance will be restored in the world tomorrow.
Whatever. Goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Have a great weekend and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. See you next Saturday. Bye.